Hello and welcome to American Propaganda, Deprogramming Your Mind Weekly. This is episode one of our podcast. Guys, how you doing? I'm Daryl. I'm the host of American Propaganda.
My name is Michael Smith.
Evan Ledesma, just a random bozo with 2 cents to rub.
So I brought you all together today because we're all pretty like-minded in what we want from our country. And this show is going to be more or less not just exposing propaganda, but kind of leaning into what we hear daily, just on a daily basis. We have entered this political climate that is ridiculous right now. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and a lot has to go into and do with propaganda, the propaganda that we all listen to, we all face on a daily basis, and this goes beyond what the media is even doing. It's your mom getting a text on WhatsApp. It's your algorithm on Facebook or X or wherever you're getting your social media from, and then just feeding into that as well. It's kind of ridiculous where this prosperous thing I like to call the internet has gone, but also how it's very much shaped people's political mindset. What I want to do kind of first is kind of go into how everybody else here on this podcast, where they've gone as well, because or how they've gotten to what their political journeys have been, because we all have one. Even if you don't, you're like apolitical or something like that. That is still a choice that you made because of something that happened in your life. So we all have like our political journeys. I'm not gonna really start with myself first. I'm gonna start with Evan. Evan.
Well, I think it all started the day I was born, April 5th, 1993. And then, but nah, I'll give you the abridged version though. The political journey was kind of an odd one for me. I would have been in that camp of apolitical for the longest time. I might have leaned more conservative back when I was in like my teens and early mid 20s. But I mean, I wasn't really voting. By the time I could vote, it was already the second Obama administration. So I didn't get too much involved, and I didn't really vote in the 16 election. It really wasn't until the 2020 election that I got a lot more involved in like our political system, at least the way you were told and taught to engage with it. And really, a lot of the call for me was just the changing political climate that I just noticed a uh, sharp pivot towards far right, and made me nervous. I'm aware of world history and things like that, and some of the motions and decisions remind me of certain other periods in history, like Weimar Republic Germany. So it just kind of made me a little, mm, so I got a little more involved in 2020. It wasn't really until like being stuck through the pandemic and being mostly quarantined indoors that a lot more of a exploration in the topic began. I looked into things, and I definitely got more left as the quarantine dragged on. And even though I got involved, just to keep Trump out of office, I mean, like, I guess mission accomplished. But the following 4 years underneath Biden weren't that great either. Inflation wasn't going down. Mostly due to the pandemic itself, but still, though, things haven't really gotten much better, and now, if anything, things are just going to get worse. And with Trump winning in for this year, back in 2024, winning the election, and now we got 4 more years of him. I just felt like now's more of a time than ever to really be more involved because I'm not liking what I'm seeing. and I'm trying to get a little bit more involved in like some activism. I've been going to like some protests and rallies, especially this year. Just trying to find some way to get my voice more heard, because I just want people to be aware that like not everyone in this country, in America, really agrees with what's going on. And I just don't want to give him an impression that everyone in this country is all on board for what's going on. We're not.
True.
Well said.
Mike, what has what has your political journey been like?
It has been a journey. Um, I grew up in a very conservative Christian household. From a very early age, was pretty indoctrinated into the church and into conservatism, which, parallel lines that run all the way down. Um, and moved to Los Angeles when I was 13, and was exposed to a lot of different things, which started kind of open my mind a little bit to be more open to different life experiences and different people's journeys, but still was still tied to that religious aspect, which tied me to conservatism. And that's how they get you. That's the whole goal of the right, it has been for a really long time. But over time and seeing a lot of really negative things happening with this exploration of what the church was, me asking a lot of questions, having really good friends that didn't judge me for being religious, but still knew I was a little bit smarter than I allowed myself to be, and so they'd ask me questions and kind of, in a kind way, push me in the right direction and allowed me to kind of explore um, the idea that maybe I was wrong about everything I believed, and it was a difficult transition, but once that happened I started reevaluating and rethinking a lot of experiences and things that I believed and tied my ideology to. Um, and I think one of the big things was it was around 2012 where I really started seeing a lot of police brutality. And I mean, I experienced homelessness and the um, the infrastructure that's set up to try to help people, which is barely existent at all, and then the demonization of any sort of type of aid or assistance to people that are struggling, and just it all started like colliding into this one thing where I'm like, yeah, I don't want any part of that. This is something I need to fight against, and kind of been on that path ever since.
We call ourselves American propaganda, and it's twofold. Because if you understand anything about propaganda, you understand that everything is propaganda. Almost everything is propaganda. We don't have just straight news. We don't have just straight stories or things. Everything now, especially in the age of social media, is infused with opinion. And that's basically propaganda. It is taking somebody's opinion and amplifying it. Good or bad, right or left, doesn't matter, right or wrong. That is basically what propaganda is. The show, by definition, is going to be some propaganda. It is going to be our beliefs. It is going to be up to you, the listener or the viewer, to side with us or not. All right, I will leave these comments open. Maybe one day we'll do a live stream. We'll see.
Wow.
uh, but the thing is, I think our political journeys are very important to understanding why we think this way. And I'm going to back it up. We're going to back it up with facts infused with opinion, but maybe we can come together through some humanity, some enlightenment. The last election and what has transpired since then has really showed me like, boy, we weren't really given a fair shot here.
No.
From the Democrats pushing Joe Biden, and then taking him back at almost the last minute and saying, you know what, let's just go with Kamala. You could have gone with a lot of other people.
Could have given us a vote. We would have made
We could have,
probably
you
been
could have had us
more.
vote, and you know what? We are not this way because we need time to infuse the people with propaganda. We need time to infuse the people with this candidate that we have handpicked and chosen, and we're gonna push. We're gonna push all the way. It is it's not good. It's not a good look, and especially a good look when you have voting public that is very against one of your policies. And the biggest policy that I think hurt the Democrats the most was Gaza.
It
Hmm.
was a big one, especially in swing states. What was it? Wisconsin had a huge number of Muslim voters that were almost exclusively Democratic voters, and after the entire Democratic Party refused to say anything in regards to the genocide, they said, no, well, if we're going to be your constituents, you need to serve us. That's your job. And if you're not going to speak on behalf of us or listen to our plight at all, why would we vote for you?
Yeah, it just felt like hypocritical, like they're the liberals and the Democratic Party in general like you to turn up and speak out, right? Unless you're Palestinian, then we need you to stay outside the DNC, for instance, and not say a
Yeah.
word.
And I mean, they're completely abandoning a huge core of their voters, which are leftists, because as much as we don't like Democrats, who else are we to vote for? But if you're
And
not
that's
going to make any compromises for us, and you're literally just going to be Republicans that pretend you're good people, why? Why?
and that's the thing. We have this failed two-party system. And both parties they have same similar, if not damn right, the same donors. And that's money in politics.
Well, one
You
would
will,
say they're not
you
even
will, huh?
they're working as they're functioning as they're supposed to.
Exactly. That is where I think the illusion of choice in this democracy
Oh yeah.
comes from. Is that hey, we have a choice. It's either choose this or choose this. What did we hear during the lead up to the last election? You gotta vote for Kamala. If you don't, you're a Russian spy.
Yeah.
You're just giving Trump the country. You're gonna land us into fascism. And you know what? That tactic didn't work.
It worked the
It
first
it
time, but it
it
didn't
worked.
work
Yeah, it
again.
worked 5 years ago because we were already under 4 years of Trump. We
Yeah, and
already
we were
knew
sick of it.
we didn't want that anymore.
Hmm.
You know, and in that time, the right got more radicalized and the left got more right wing. They poured dollars into their to billionaires' pockets. And this is why we're here. Because
Well,
we
that's
had
why she
four
was.
years of high inflation, of high this and high that. It was terrible. And people unfortunately, people just didn't show up this time. It was either you were gonna just reluctantly vote for Kamala. Unfortunately, you were gonna either enthusiastically vote for Kamala or Trump was gonna win.
Yeah, and I mean the illusion of choose of choice has been uh it's disappeared. Like we see through it now, and a lot of people just don't. If politicians and these political leaders and all these people in charge are not actually going to listen to us or do anything that we ask them to, why, if we have no agency in this system, then why would we participate? I mean, I voted not to, um, but yeah, it didn't do a damn thing.
No, we are not. Well, by the way, we're in California. That's not going to do anything. If we were in Wisconsin, we are in Montana, we are in Idaho, Ohio,
Pennsylvania,
whatever.
yeah.
it would make a difference. And then, of course, you got gerrymandering, you got districting, you got redlining, you got so many of these other very, by the way,
Electoral
racist
college.
things that are going on with just how elections, especially local municipal fucking elections, are handled, you
Mhm.
know? And it sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah, it's a fucked system that doesn't represent the people at all. I mean, even if you look at the numbers, let's look at the number of people that voted for Trump. Out of that percentage of people, that makes up less than 22 or 23% of the entire voting age population.
Absolutely.
Over
Yeah.
40% of voters did not vote.
Yeah, they didn't show up. That is technically a problem,
That's almost
but
equal to the number of people that actually voted.
the number of people that didn't vote directly reflects, especially at voting age, directly reflects how they feel about politics, about this
Yeah,
political system, and being jerked around. They would rather just not vote than have to vote for somebody that they didn't initially vote for in a primary or a caucus, and somebody they don't fucking like.
yeah.
You know,
Give me two
you
pieces
can't.
of
You
shit.
like
Why
that's
would I
not what
pick them?
democracy should be.
Who's gonna vote for a piece of shit if that's all that's there? I'm still not gonna pick shit.
And I think I wrote Bernie Sanders' name in at some point or another, but it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But I did. I did write his name in. I don't even want to go into how like them screwing him over. Obama
Screwing
calling people
us
to
over.
drop off the night before
Oh, and
Super
let's talk
Tuesday.
about Bloomberg investing $1 billion to run the campaign
Ridiculous.
so we could take all the moderate votes,
There you
and then
go.
dropping out after Super Tuesday. It was to ensure that he didn't have to pay more taxes. It was an investment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because he knew how popular Bernie was.
Yeah.
They all knew how popular Bernie was. Maybe Bernie didn't win against Hillary all the time, but he always won against Trump, and Hillary hardly ever won against Trump in
Hmm.
any of those pollings from 2016. And then again in 2020, the same exact polls, and he was even higher in 2020 or going into Super
But
Tuesday.
the
It's ridiculous. And I
DNC,
remember just watching it. And I was just like, oh my God.
well, yeah, I mean
Evan, I
that's
was
why
with you that night. I remember for Super
all
Tuesday.
those
We're just
Democratic
looking at
candidates
this
ran.
bullshit. California went to Bernie. That was
It's a big deal. That was a
a big
lot
deal.
of votes.
But that goes to saying billionaires and money should be kept out of politics, and that's
100%.
that's
Like,
part of my belief as well. Is we why do we allow people with money to buy politicians? Politicians should be listening to us, but the fact that they can give them money to listen to them more, that's bullshit.
it
And it's
is.
been going on forever. Okay.
Mhm.
Like, this is not a new concept. I know some people out there, especially MAGAs, don't seem to comprehend this line of thought. And it's not your fault, MAGAs. And we'll get into that in a bit. Because I truly believe this, but we should not have money in politics. Um, if you want like a really somewhat early depiction of what I'm trying to say, there's this old 1930s movie called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington with James Stewart and Cloud Rains. If you guys don't know about this movie, you need to go watch it. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's about a young man who is elected to the Senate. He is just a Boy Scout leader. That's all he is, but he's very pure of heart. He's got the momentum and drive for making things better. So he gets elected to Senate. And he goes to Washington, and then he has these bright eyes. Oh, Washington! Oh, this is a great country, guys. Go, Jimmy Stewart. And he's very bright-eyed, and he feels like he could definitely make changes until he presents a change that he wants to make to Congress, and that ruffles the feathers of a billionaire, of a, well, the time multimillionaire. And he had investment into this land that, you know, the Jimmy Stewart character wanted to save and do some boys stuff for the youth, basically. But the billionaire wanted to turn it into some kind of casino or something, and it's just ridiculous. And so he does everything in his power to take Mr. Smith down. And he uses all of his money and all of his lobbying and powers. He's buying politicians. It's a great movie, and if you haven't seen it, go freaking watch it. But nothing has changed. Like, and it's crazy because the director of that movie, Frank Capra, who he was actually a conservative Republican making these very socialist movies. And I feel like by the time you get into the 1960s with his filmography, his views really started changing because I think he stopped believing what the Republican Party was becoming. And that is a whole thing too. You can read that in his biography. His son talks about that too. But yeah, if you know anything about Frank Capra and his ideology, also go watch his most famous film, It's a Wonderful Life. That is a socialist movie. um, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, Meet John Doe. These are little men, the working class men getting pushed down by higher society. It's a Wonderful Life, one of the greatest socialist movies of all time. The working man, he was the bank. He was giving out good loans, and he was getting sidestepped by Mr. Potter the entire fucking movie. It's ridiculous. And some people will watch that unironically. They will be like, "Oh, this is
Yeah,
just a good movie about a man who wanted to commit suicide and then he didn't." No.
that's
uh,
just like the most obvious reading, you know, you're missing the subtext behind why he felt the need to bring himself to that decision. You know, we're not considering the economic downturn because this was also speaking about like the Great Depression at the time too, because didn't this also like take place during that time as well, speaking on that kind of modern economic crisis back then, because that movie came out like what, 41, so the Great Depression was still a living memory for everyone back then.
Yeah,
Um,
and that reminds me of like the misinterpretation of The Great Gatsby. Um, I remember when the movie came out with Leonardo DiCaprio, and then everybody would have these Great Gatsby parties, and it's like y'all are doing the opposite of what this movie's warning you about.
that was
yeah,
talking about the Roaring Twenties too, and the opulence of that
Yeah,
decade, and
and then they
how
would have these big decadent parties to mirror what that was what's happening in the film, which it was an allegory to warn people against, and it's just like, oh well, you're
I
not
feel
getting
like
it.
I feel like people really ought to be looking at that now, but I just don't think they're getting it because they're doing that exact same behavior right now that they were doing back in the 20s before the bank crash and the Great Depression began in 1929. People are not really, it's kind of like, remember that High Rise movie we're watching? You
Yeah,
know, once
that was a fun
again,
movie.
it's just spending the money on luxuries and pleasures, all in an attempt to distract one from the harsh realities that are all around them. It's like this is fine meme where the dog's just sitting there and the whole home's burning down. He's like, oh, this is fine. This is exactly what's going on here. You know, we are entertaining and distracting ourselves to death here because we are in a shitstorm, you know, at least a brewing one, you know, if it hasn't already hit the fan, somebody's gearing to wind up right now.
right.
Uh, and and so we're just trying to avoid that by like living life as hard and as fast as we can because it's like all about to go
well,
away, so you might as
well,
well
let's
fuck it, go enjoy it.
when in the history of ever has
Yeah.
a rich person been in favor of the little guy? I can't think of like a time.
If you're a part of a system and you know what you're doing, you have to be aware. If you're a billionaire, have to knowingly siphon wealth from the lower class. And by being aware of that process and still participating and continuing to do that, you're bad. If you're a billionaire, you're bad. There's no good billionaire. I'm
No.
sorry.
I mean,
Billionaires should.
I also don't think that there's no good billion. I don't think billionaires should really exist. If you want to have a
No.
million, two couple million, that's
I mean,
fine.
that's why you put
But like you know how long it would take you to earn or to make, yeah, earn the money that Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk have.
hundreds of lifetimes.
yeah, no,
And
this
I
is
think there's
female.
this disconnect from people that say, well, I know I work for a billionaire and he takes care of me because you make, $150,000 at your, I don't know what you do, your union job, or you're a foreman on a construction site because that's about the price they pull in, about 150. So you're gonna automatically be like, well, I'm living a simple good life and that billionaire is good to me. Well, he's still not.
Yeah.
He's
That's the thing, because you
extracting
could
more
be
wealth than
working,
you've
you
ever
could make
seen his
making
dad.
$150,000 a year from the time you're 20 to the time you're 100, and you will still never ever crack $1 billion. Ever crack $1 billion. That's the point. You will never own a second house. You will not own a fucking second yacht. You will not own a first yacht. You might have a speedboat.
Oh,
And
I
a
mean,
lot of guns. But like
what you're touching on here is like classic classist conditioning. This is the working class, the peasant class, the serfs. We have always been
abs
conditioned throughout history to protect and uplift the rich and the powerful because we
exactly.
are underneath the assumption that they are there to protect us. Because we give them all of our labor, right? And so the agreement was we give you our labor, and whatever we produce from that labor for you to make wealth in. And in turn, you protect us from hostile bodies, foreign nations, for instance, are hostile, so that way we can keep living our lives. But they are take you give them an inch though, they take a mile, and they just keep taking and taking. There's no give and take. It's just take and take and take.
You
Uh,
start to realize how little has changed since medieval times. Because you get the fucking
Yeah.
king
I mean,
and
we're
the
living in techno
patriarchy.
feudalism.
Huh?
We're living in techno feudalism.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
We're
I mean,
peasants.
Peter Thiel wrote a
Peasants with
book about it.
Xboxes. Oh, fuck.
Peter
I'm
Thiel wrote
sorry.
a
I
book
shouldn't have
about
bought
his
that
plan.
latte and Xbox. What were you
shouldn't
saying?
have
Sorry.
bought that latte in Xbox.
What were you saying, Mike?
I was saying that Peter Thiel wrote a book on his plan to create this techno feudalist society. His goal is to watch this system burn down and be the one and his friends, his tech billionaires, take over and control the government and run the country. That's their goal. They want to see it crumble.
Why do you think there's such a big push against like education? Like they want to get rid of the Department of Education. You keep people dumb and poor, they're trapped, all right? They're not going to be able to escape the life they're born into, and that's exactly where they want you to be. They treat you like a cog in the machine. It's a very dehumanizing, impersonal way to look at people, and it helps them to sleep at night because they are committing egregious atrocities that are absolutely crimes against humanity and crimes against peace. And yet, there's no judicial body, no authority that's able to hold them accountable except for the people themselves, as it always has been said. But if the people are ignorant and kept uninformed and unaware of their power and are constantly gaslit and coerced into kowtowing into submission, always being underneath the assumption that like, oh, well, there's no hope, there's no way that this can ever happen.
Yeah.
There are many plenty times in history where these things happen where the people didn't think the monarchy could go. That guy was ordained by God. That's God's right hand man. You telling me you're gonna say no to God Almighty? You gotta listen to that king and what he says.
Yeah, it's exactly. It is ridiculous. Um, it is kind of going back. You said something about education. It's going back to my statement about MAGA not knowing any better. Um, It's not just them. It's everybody. We grew up in a very declining education system.
Yeah.
Our education is one of the worst in first world countries. And it's ridiculous. If you look at like, Finland is scoring way higher and stuff like that. And then of
I
course
think we're
the
like,
argument there is, well, it's a lesser population.
it doesn't matter.
You'd think with more people, things would be a lot better
If
because
with
there's
more
more
money, we
people.
have the most money coming into our government than any other country.
How California, the state of California alone is like has a GDP that rivals most nations.
I think it's the fifth largest economy in the world.
Yes,
Yeah.
is. And that's just a single state
Well,
within
And
this
Texas
country.
is like
if
number
if
seven.
if we want to like get fun, we are the wealthiest country.
We have the money to educate our people.
We have the money for
And the
everything.
technology.
A lot of our money is tied up in debt.
Oh,
But
real
I
quick,
mean, and then we get funneled in through so many other things.
yeah, real quick to go back to what we were talking about how long it would take to actually become a billionaire. If you had a job that making $150,000 a year, that's a good job. That's a good job for
Yeah,
anyone in America.
you can afford
Uh,
a Tesla.
it would take you, well,
Should have bought that Tesla.
if you worked for 6,650 years, you would still not be a billionaire.
Ooh.
6,000 years.
6,650 years, and you would only have 997,500,000.
Over 6 millennia. Who's
Yeah,
got that kind of time?
you'd
That's
be as
that's
old.
longer than modern human civilization.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
that's. I was
our
just about
history
to
doesn't
say
even go
it's
back
it's
that
it's it's
far.
it's longer than what's his name? Ken
It's longer than written language.
what's that religious guy that built the ark? Ken something.
Oh, that
Uh,
guy that has the museum.
yeah, he debated
He thinks that the
Bill
Earth
Nye not
is
too long ago.
oh yeah, he thinks that
Um,
the entire universe
is 6,000 years old.
yeah,
The entire
because
universe.
if you
Because there's nothing. There's
if you align
not a
it with
single
the
thing could have been
Bible, if
before
you go
humans.
back and because it gives all the lineage of every character in these stories, and if you trace back and add up all of the years, it's only 6,000 something years.
Well, we'll talk a
Feudalism.
little bit about that feudalism, right? How we kind of see some similarities as far as like class disparity going, and even this, the class characters, such as like the strong resistance towards education, and this
I have
commitment
I
to
have
willful ignorance.
I have heard some working class people say the education system here is terrible. We got to just get rid of it completely. I'm like, what the hell?
Nothing is better than anything.
I believe that everybody has a right to an education. The wording here is saying like only the rich will ever have the right to an education. What do you think Cinderella was about?
Well, I
Her
mean,
sisters who are a little
historically,
bit more well off had the education. She didn't,
no.
again, this goes back to this has never changed. You
Oh,
know,
yeah, historically, it was always the rich and powerful that had access to education. The poor peasant class had no access at
no,
all.
exactly.
And
The
they had
poor
to be
peasants
taught
were
to read
were
and write
not
by their
intelligent.
parents, if their
I mean,
parents could read and write.
yeah, exactly. And then when we slowly started coming out of this era, right? And into the West, into the old West, into I don't
The
know,
modern era, as we call it.
slavery times. Who do they deprive of an education? Oh boy.
Farmers.
And they want to continue that. They don't want us educated.
I mean,
The
they want
smarter
a
we are,
poor,
the more gullible we are
uneducated
to vote for them.
working class.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. We are the working class. We are the
I've heard
proletariat.
from Republican politicians that one of the big reasons they're leaning into this anti-abortion stuff is literally to increase the number of white American working class people.
Absolutely. The more
They
of the
want to
work, the
grow. If they're going to kick out all of the immigrants, they have to replace those workers with white workers. And if white people aren't having kids, you have to force them to.
Hmm.
It is
You
fucking
force them and then you
disgusting
take
in
away
eugenics,
everything that they
and
got.
it's a whole crazy thing that they're blatantly talking about.
Well, they even
Oh
want to
yeah,
give like
it's we
tax
are.
incentives for like birthing, like there's some policies that want to push to give you money to procreate too. I don't know how much ground those are gaining, but I know that's just another attempt to repopulate the workforce.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I mean, to what that's just it's insane. I don't know.
It's not. There's a good point there too, and that is repopulation for them.
Yeah.
They're trying to, hey, why don't you come work for us? We'll give you
Well, and the
some
more
money.
people that are
You be
competing in the
grateful.
marketplace for jobs, the lower the wages can be. Because if there's a demand for positions because there's not enough of them, the workers will take any wage that's given to them
hmm
because it's that or starvation. And if
But
those
And
are your
that's the sucky
options,
part.
you'll work for nothing. And that's why they do
yeah,
these massive layoffs. They'll fire 10,000 people or what's the corporation the CEO of I don't remember
Starbucks.
what?
Was it Starbucks?
No, the CEO of GE, I think it
Oh,
was,
okay.
what started this thing. I think it was in I don't remember exactly when it was, so I'm not going to pretend to know. So General Electric basically took care of its employees to such an extent that they basically provided huge job security, like pensions, all these different options in healthcare, and all the things that you could possibly need because they believed in doing the thing that made you proud to work for your company and gave you agency and all these things. And not that they weren't doing nefarious things or bad in other ways, but there was an idea that that's what the company's job as a corporation. You should do that for your employees. Keep them happy, keep them productive and working hard. But this new CEO stepped in and said, no, we're cleaning house, and every year we're firing the bottom 10% of performers every year. And by doing that, you force and scare productivity into your employees, and also you can strive and keep your wages down because if you're removing the need for raising wages, because if your turnover rate is way low, then you can hire on people, new new outside hires every year at a at a base rate, and it scares employees into thinking that they're going to get fired if they don't work hard enough.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's like
And,
kind of,
and and you know, it's a means of control. They
yeah,
control
absolutely.
you. They have all the money, they have all the freedom, and you don't have any.
But a
And that's
lot
the
of
shitty part.
corporations have modeled themselves, especially Amazon, after that same model. And they basically do the same thing. If you look at the way uh, they operate, is they fire a huge portion at the bottom uh, of the bottom earner or performers every single year.
And it feels like it's just getting worse, obviously. There's there's not it's not just even wages right now either. We're very, very stagnant. And we're just kind of like we feel like we just have to, if we don't go to work, we're done. It sucks. And I was just thinking about this the other day on the freeway where I'm just traveling and I'm like, the world feels like it's burning and we're just gotta go to work. We gotta feed ourselves. We gotta eat. We gotta make sure we have shelter and stuff like that. This is
business as
ridiculous.
usual.
And not to mention all the stuff that they're trying to take away. My big thing right now is Medicaid, right? But he's toying with the idea of eliminating federal taxes for all workers making less than 150,000.
Then who's
Do
paying
you know
taxes?
what that would create?
No one would pay. There's a very, very few amount of people that would actually pay taxes then.
Yeah, there's would be a very few amount of people. paying taxes. And by the way, it's not like they're raising taxes on the rich. He just gave them a fuck ton
Yeah.
of tax breaks right now. Like literally, that's what's in the bill.
So
What
I was
this
kind of looking.
means is that more things are going to get privatized. You want a fucking cop? Cops come out of our taxes, but you might have to pay for that cop if you're making
To
less
be
than
protected.
150,000. Firefighters, we just saw a little bit of that during the California wildfires where he had some fucking billionaire hiring out a firefighting crew privately to fight fires so his home doesn't get burned down. Meanwhile, all the
Wow.
other impoverished people around him, their homes got lost. And by the
Yeah.
way, Altadena, where it was primarily at, had a large black population. Don't tell me that this is not calculated. And then you have Gavin Newsom right now talking about buying back up the land. You
I'm sure
What?
fuck
BlackRock's all
You?
over it.
piece of shit. Gavin Newsom's not a hero, by the way. He's a piece of shit too. He's a goddamn corporatist.
Now, of course he is.
Hey, he's got big ambitions, all right. He's looking towards the White House, man. He's sitting out. He's paying for ads in other states,
Well, he's
okay?
running in 2028 for sure.
It's
He's already
ridiculous.
looking ahead. He's already looking to kick the can further down the road for whoever else becomes a governor of
And
this
you know,
state.
he's a good looking man. He has nice middle-aged hair.
Now he looks like a slime ball.
He could probably take Donald Trump in a debate. I'm not gonna lie about
Oh
that, you
yeah,
know.
no, he's better than Trump, but that's not.
It's
Uh,
not helping
Well,
any.
it's still the
It's just
lesser of two
basically
evils that we've been used to.
you're getting younger Biden,
Younger.
a white Obama.
white
Wow.
Obama. That's better. White Obama. You know, he's gonna come in and
Because he does the hand thing too.
status quo as usual. That's what it's all gonna be. It's not gonna go back. It's gonna go back to how it was as opposed to getting better.
Well, they'll
And I
change
think that's a
some
fundamental
some
flaw of
some
society. We
individual
need to get
rights
better.
laws in order to make it seem like there's big wins. You might reinstate Roe versus Wade, or there might be a couple little things, but as far as economics are concerned, none of that's going to change.
Oh, definitely not.
Got
I
the
No.
mean, they
reserve
may
army
increase
of
He
labor.
the
might raise
federal minimum wage to $10,
I
but
doubt
it's
he
still
even.
not a
Well,
livable
you know what?
wage for
He
most
did raise
states.
minimum wage here, and then he's giving fast food workers like $20 an hour. So.
But I'm just saying that he'll do superficial things that will only help surface
Oh,
level.
definitely. Oh, yeah, yeah,
If you
Well,
don't
that's what the
definitely.
liberals
try to
always
fix the
do.
root, then nothing's ever going to
He'll reinstate
fix.
some of the provisions of Obamacare
Right.
that Trump ended up taking out. He'll do that. He'll do like little things,
Well, it's
make
always
himself look. You know, he'll smile with his white teeth. Yeah.
it's because they always present
It's still not
solutions
helping.
that do not match the scale of the issue. You know, they're proposing solutions in these aids that are supposed to make things better, but it does not match the scope and scale of the looming crisis that's upon us, you know, not only economically, but also politically across the world. You know, we
Yeah,
cannot make these half-hearted measures and expect them to do the work of like something that is fully committed, fully engaged, fully fleshed out.
yeah.
Well, I
So
And
mean,
for
we
then
all know
minor
the
changes, we need
answer.
more substantial core structural changes. You know, something fundamental.
I mean, we all know the answer. We saw it. We saw it in France. We know what's supposed to happen. It's
Hey,
just
French know how to protest, man.
Well, they have a bigger
I
history
wish we knew how to
of
protest like the
rebellion
French
than
or
we do.
the Germans or the Belgians. You know?
Well,
it's a
their
pretty
Frankfurt
simple
Revolution
machine
was
to
good.
make. It's got one lever, and yeah,
Um,
Unfortunately, you know,
but
America is
no,
the
no, it's
the British
so
crown, and greatest saying out of Britain is what? Keep calm and carry on. You know, that's,
yeah.
that's
Was
their
that
most
Thatcher?
famous.
but really okay, so to start winding down here and wrapping up. How to fix this, but we know how to fix this. Actually,
Yeah,
Michael, you did a great segue right now. But really, like we need organization.
they need radical
None of
organization,
these
real
parties,
movements.
yeah, n none of these parties, and I'm talking about just Republicans and Democrats. We have a lot of parties, and that the Republicans and Democrats just keep and hold down. You know, it is a very fierce two-party system. It is an authoritarian two-party system because when you limit other people's choices, you're not a democracy anymore. You're not even a republic. So we need to organize. None of these parties are for you, the working class. We are the working class. I don't care if you voted for Trump. Chances are, if you're listening to this, you are also part of our struggle. You are the working class. We have a name for that, the proletariat. And it's a very big Marxist phrase, I know. He didn't invent it, by the
Uh-oh.
way, but it's still what we should believe in. We are in this together. We are a class of people that are struggling right now, that have been struggling under every single type of leadership that we've had in the past since the beginning of this fucking country. I
250
can't even
years.
say that this is new, but we are at a point where I think more people are starting to wake up and starting to understand that there is something better. And I believe that better is, hey, I have a dollar, you have a dollar. Let's collectively put our dollars together and do something better. Send our children to college. Make sure we don't die. Have the best healthcare in the world. By the way, we don't have the best healthcare in the world,
Absolutely not. We spend the
and we pay
most.
the
We
most.
have
The other lie about healthcare is we have the best in the world. Why? Because we pay into it. Capitalism breeds innovation, and the best innovations of capitalism are to get your dick hard. And you see that
Uh,
all the time on Fox News. By the way, the pharmaceutical companies are all over right-wing media.
yep.
It's ridiculous. And honestly, some of them are in left-wing media. I think MSNBC is no better than Fox News. It just isn't. But we'll get into left-wing propaganda, or I'm sorry, I should say liberal propaganda another time because that is why I think the left in general, whether you are soft left, like a Democrat, or hard left, like a socialist, are infighting right now. It is just this very it's a fundamental misunderstanding of where we're standing and in this moment and how to fix things. And I guarantee you, it's not fixing things is not going to be more capitalism.
Right.
To paraphrase
yeah.
what somebody I look up to a lot, Fred Hampton, we're not going to defeat capitalism with more capitalism. We're going to defeat it with socialism.
And real quick, to just circle back to the healthcare thing, we in the healthcare index, we are number 56.
Yeah, I think
That's
our
about right.
life expectancy went down 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think.
we are definitely below any of the Scandinavian countries, Japan, a lot of European, the EU in general, probably. But like, yeah, we are
Israel's in the
we
top
are
10, and we
unhealthy,
pay
we
for
are
it.
uneducated,
Ah,
and we're marching ever so rapidly towards fascism.
Yep, yep, yep.
it's in our face. They're not even trying to hide it anymore.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so that's it for this round. I think we covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we did.
And so next time, yeah, we'll have some more news of the week.
News of the week.
Implanted with a little bit more of what we bring to the table. So,
Well, maybe we
signing
won't.
off, I'm Daryl,
Oh, I'm Michael.
And I'm Evan.
and this has been American Propaganda, and we'll see you next week to deprogram.